To most, Super Smash Bros. Is and always has been nothing but a party game. And let's be real, we've all had these experiences. You go over to your buddy Ethan's house for a birthday party, and you end up spending the next 3 hours fighting a kid named Timmy on Smash Bros. While he blasts Five Nights at Freddy's music in your ears. This is peak! This is peak! However, to a certain subset of people, there are these mystical arts at play, called back airs, or parrying, or worst of all, frame data. To be honest, not only do I think that these sacred days are coming to an end, but in fact, I already think that the apocalypse has begun. So why do I think that the end times are coming, or this possible like anti-20XX era does seem to be on the horizon, and what are the symptoms that I've noticed thus far? Well, first of all, I think the most clear and obvious one is just the insane power scaling that we've seen with time. I think if you are a competitive Smash fan, you can tell that the game's getting a little less competitive as, you know, things go on, because it almost seems like a lot more is unreactable, is just impossible to punish. The characters that we initially had launch with the game versus the characters that launched by the very end of the game's development cycle, worlds different. I mean, for a moment, just think about the characters that we got when Smash Ultimate first came out as newcomers. We had Incineroar, garbage. Ridley, garbage. Belmont, garbage, right? We just got trash cans in characters. We got Isabelle. That's the worst character ever. Alright, don't mention the fact that I lost to an Isabelle. You know it's bad when the best character that was really to come out of the original roster for Smash Ultimate as a newcomer is Inkling. Like, Inkling's not even that good. Like, Shiryuki, if Shiryuki does well, people are like, oh my god, Inkling did well? That's how mid Inkling is, you know? And then we got other people like King K. Rool. Garbage. I don't care, ball. I watched you fight MK Leo. It wasn't what I wanted to see, man. But, geez, bro. The characters that this game launched with as newcomers literally pretty much don't exist, right? And then First Fighter Pass comes out. We get some characters that are on the greater side, right? We get Piranha Plant, which I actually think low-key might be a decent character, but you know, who knows about that. We got Banjo. Okay, he's not great, but he just top 8 of the Super Major, so is he? But then we get some people like Joker. That guy got a lot of success, right? For a couple of years there, he was just kind of winning everything. We get characters like Terry. He's definitely won a major, maybe a couple, but I know at least one. So, now we're starting to get some characters that are okay. Like, they're not insane, but they're pretty good though. Like the Fighter Pass 1 characters comparatively to the original roster characters, it's crazy. It's day and night, right? Fighter Pass 2? No. Because how did we just get Steve, Kazuya, Min, Pyro, and Mithra in the same DLC pass? What a deal. Like, that's such a good deal, bro. What is that, $25? You can just get the best characters in the game. Like, that's awesome. But from a balance standpoint, from a competitive standpoint, it doesn't make any sense, right? These characters don't make any sense. And when you think about them, it's not just, okay, they're super good, right? You always have good characters. That's why, actually, to be honest, out of those 4 I mentioned, I have the least problem, or I think it's the least worrying, is Pyro and Mithra. Because Pyro and Mithra, at least, is just really like an enhanced version of a typical sword character. So we can kind of remove her from the equation. But now we're left with these 3, right? Kazuya, Steve, Min. These characters each kind of break what competitive Smash was through a certain lens. You know, they each have something where it's like, that's not really supposed to be possible. But if we think of this as not a competitive game, and as Nintendo may be intending for this to be a more casual game, then it kind of makes sense. Think about somebody like Kazuya, right? He kind of obliterates this whole idea of a character having to win neutral multiple times and slowly rack up damage, chip away at your opponent. No. If you get an electric, it's Jover. Like, it just cut it off, bro. Just hand your opponent the controller, You don't even ever want to play again. You're retired. That's your career right there, right? And that's why you'll see players like T just because he knows how to win, bro. He knows how. I can't even blame him, right? But then you have somebody like Min, who kind of destroyed the entire concept of like spacing. Like, how are you hitting me from literally the other side of the stage? I've seen players be out in the blast zone. They're not even visible on the screen. Again, Min doesn't even need a projectile. She can do her melee arm attack on somebody who's off the blast zone. They won't even show up. The only thing that shows is the little magnifying glass. And she can kill them from on stage. She doesn't even have to get off the stage. What? Like, that's so absurd. And then worst of all, you got Steve, who could literally change the stage. Like, he's changing the battlefield that you play on. He's building houses and walls and mazes, right? When I was watching Syrup versus Acola, it was like literally they were running through a maze to try to get each other. I was like, is this even necessary at this point? Do you even care this much, you know? It was kind of surprising to me. I've heard a lot of people say, you know, maybe it's just Nintendo during the quarantine. They weren't able to beta test a lot of this stuff. So we don't know. Maybe they meant to balance it more, but they messed up. Do you think Nintendo really cares about balance in a competitive lens? Does that make any sense to you? That doesn't make any sense. So even if we just look at the power of these characters, I think it's clear that the trend is going upward with time. And if you really are like, I don't know if that's enough evidence that Nintendo is trying to make it less competitive. If Nintendo really cares about it being competitive, and they have to know that, you know, certain things are unbalanced, that Steve must not be super balanced because we see so many Steve succeeding like no other character ever has, right? If Nintendo didn't care or wanted it to be balanced, wouldn't they just let us regulate it? But you move to let's make big moves. Nintendo made the call and got Steve unbanned from that tournament. They said, no. You gotta have Block Guy there. If Block Guy isn't there, I'm blocking this tournament. I just made that up right now. Nintendo clearly, they actually like it, I think. Think about it. If it's just like these fundamental rules of competition in Smash being broken, then that's a lot less for somebody to have to learn. If you don't really have to hone a lot of your skills and you maybe only need to be good at like character specific things, then you will climb the ranks a lot faster, which is a lot more appealing to people. And this kind of goes into the reason that Nintendo would want to do this in the first place. Clearly, Sakurai saw the match of Syrup versus Acola, and he was like, that right there? What? That's my kind of game, you know? So he's like trying to bring that out for sure at Let's Make Big Moves. He needs at least a couple Steves in that top 8, right? I know you must be thinking like, but Mohammed, why? Well, duh. Truly, Nintendo doesn't want their games to be competitive because the more casual their game is, the more broad of a reach that the game can have. Back to that party example from earlier. Imagine I'm at that party and little Timmy can just start picking up Steve and he can be bodying me because, you know, my character is a lot harder than his character and that's just how strong his character is at a certain point. Then obviously that's going to make Timmy feel like, wait, I can beat this guy? He's going to start playing Smash. But if I just body him over and over and over, you know, I'm playing Sheik or something and he just picks Donkey Kong and he's getting comboed across the stage, then he's never playing again. So Nintendo does not want that. And they don't want that in a casual setting, but they don't even want that in tournament. They don't even want it to be shown that that's even possible, right? So they're like, okay, if you're going to do a tournament, it's gotta be Steve allowed. You know, people gotta know that, okay, I can, worst case scenario, I can just pick this Block Guy and I can beat MK Leo, right? You know, I don't really even gotta practice. If I just pick this, I should be good. You know, that's what they want people to think. It's not really true, but it's not super far from true, right? It's technically possible. It has happened before, you know? But essentially, Nintendo is very incentivized to make their game a lot less strategic and a lot more chance-based. And this is even why I believe that they had things like tripping in Brawl, was in order to kind of compensate for how competitive Melee was. And You got to think they shut down Melee tournaments, and the only reason they put them back on was because of all the backlash they got. They really don't like this competitive nature. You know, they want to make it so I can just get bodied by little Timmy, even if I have 10,000 hours, which, by the way, I would literally JV for you, Timmy. So you're never beating me. With the massive commercial boom of gaming in the modern age, developers have strived to reach a bigger and bigger audience and essentially grow their market share. And one way of doing this is simplifying the game to a very high degree, or in other words, dumbing the game down. We've even seen games like Street Fighter dramatically broaden their reach by simply making these slight adjustments and tweaks that have gotten many casual players and streamers alike to be able to play their game, broadcast the game in order to show it to many new people. And these are people who would have never really played it before because they thought it was too hard. But now there's a lot of mechanics in play. For example, one button inputs. Instead of having to do down forward A in order to do a Hadouken, you can just press B, you know? And a lot of things like that make it a lot more casual friendly and thus a lot more popular. And if you think that Smash wouldn't do this, but Street Fighter would, you're out of your mind. I wouldn't be surprised if the next Smash game implements a lot of mechanics like this. I don't know necessarily how it would work, but I imagine something similar to like a Sora side B, where it's like all you have to do to hit a 3-hit combo as Sora is just hold side B in their direction. And I think a lot more stuff like this will happen within the next Smash, like some move that will instantly connect into a string of moves, and maybe you can do it both ways, and one will do more damage than the other, but I think it'll be a lot more like Ryu or Ken now, where there's like 2 ways to do the move, and you get a slight benefit if you do it the input way, but even if you don't, you can do it with a single button press, and it still do a maybe 85% of what it would have done. I mean, with the rate that things are going, I wouldn't even be surprised if Nintendo just decides that certain mechanics that can currently be toggled would instead just be locked as on all the time. For example, stage hazards, which, you know, is something that people have struggled with a lot in the past, and maybe that won't come back, but I think that something like stage transitions may actually be a very significant part of a future title, because I think it's something that they've been kind of developing and in the works with.
Regarding stages, we have a little surprise. Please take a look. Check that out. While playing, the stage can transform around you.
And I could just totally see, you know, you being on Battlefield and then you're on Final Destination, or you being on Pokemon Stadium 2 and then you're just in the middle of, you know, Hollow Bastion. Which, by the way, I always thought that was such a weird mechanic. Like, how could, imagine I'm here, right, and I'm Mario and I'm fighting, and then I'm in the desert. No, how did I get here? No. I guess what I'm really curious to hear is, what do you guys think about this? Do you guys think that the next Smash is going to be a party game? Or do you think it will still be kind of a hybrid as it is now? Or will they go a complete opposite direction? Boom, it's completely competitive. It's like Smash Melee. That would be insane. But yeah, I mean, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe. And I want to give a huge shout out to my tier 2 member, Wally Winker. And, you know, please join the channel if you enjoy the videos, because, you know, it's $4.99 if you would like to, you know, be a tier 2 member, or it's only $1.99 if you want to be a tier 1 member. And it really helps support me. You get these sick badges. They're sick. And yeah. I'm still out here. Help me. Anything else, please subscribe. Please. Please.